A woman's life begins at 18. A man's life begins at 30. This is one of the biggest misconceptions in the self-improvement manosphere space. Now, before I explain why, let me just play devil's advocate and explain some of the justification behind this belief system. So, the general idea is that women are valued based on their physical appearance, which tends to peak somewhere in their late teens, maybe early to mid 20s, because men are visual creatures, and that's how we value women. Whereas men are valued primarily based on their social status, their ability to provide, and their ability to protect. And the common denominator between those things is how much money and or success they have. And it's very difficult to acquire and establish any meaningful success before the age of 30. Now, if you're going based on that ideology, that supporting belief system, then by all means, that is true. It's very, very true. Okay, if you feel like women are only valued based on their physical appearance, then yeah, a woman's life begins at around 18 and ends at around 30, maybe 35, give or take, depending on the woman. Whereas a man, his life will begin around 30 and he will continue on an upward trajectory until he is no longer able to physically make any more money. This is not true. Like I said, if you go based on that foundational belief system, it is true, but the foundational belief system in and of itself is simply false. Now, why is that? The reason why is because the idea of value is being misconstrued in that ideology. So, first of all, what is value? Humans, by and large, as a society, as a species, tend to assign value based on two underlying metrics. And this is irrespective of gender, race, religion, or any other distinguishing factor. And those two metrics are, for one, usefulness, and two, scarcity. When something is useful and it's scarce, it's valuable. Plain and simple. Now, as humans, we've also assigned value to things that aren't necessarily useful but are scarce, such as beauty and success. But it's also important to understand that those two metrics, beauty and success, are subjective. And with me having moved to a different country and having seen how some of these dynamics play out a little differently in different societies, I've developed a much more nuanced perspective. Granted, I already had this sort of perspective, but now I've seen firsthand how not every society values the same metrics to the same extent or in the same way. Now, how do you go about becoming a valuable person? Okay, if you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you're a man who's below the age of 30. And you probably clicked on this video with an underlying sense of dread and hopelessness because you believe that your life is not going to begin, obviously metaphorically, not literally. You believe that your life is going to begin at the age of 30, whereas you might be 22, 23 years old. I'm 23 myself. And believe me when I tell you, I've lived plenty of life. Okay, my life has been great up to this point, and I'm sure it will be even better moving forward. How do you go about finding this value? How do you go about establishing usefulness and establishing scarcity? Well, the answer is simple. Be yourself. Literally, just be yourself. When you're being yourself, you will be useful and you will be scarce. Okay, you will become, as I've said in the past, a walking NFT. Granted, I don't think NFTs are really at their peak value right now, but that's besides the point. Okay, you'll become a walking asset, the likes of which nobody can ever truly replicate. Now, when it comes to being yourself, the reason why this is so powerful is because when you are yourself, when you're being your authentic self, you are essentially giving other people permission to see the value that is already inherent within you. And vice versa, you give people permission to see the value within themselves. As within, so without. This is one of my favorite quotes. It's very short, but very, very profound. This is a quote that was reflected in a book that I read in 2022, a book called The One-Page Marketing Plan. The one thing that I took away from that book, the only point that stuck with me through all this time, was the idea that people will generally accept you wherever you place yourself. So when you can place yourself in a position where you appear valuable because you see yourself as being valuable enough to be yourself, people will generally follow suit and they will assign and attribute that same value to you. Now, what are some actionable steps that you can take to build upon this foundational value of being your authentic self? Number one, self-care. Start taking care of yourself. Anything that you value in life, you take care of. Simply put, if you don't value something, you don't take care of it. If I gave you a Ferrari 458, assuming you don't already have one, if I gave you a Ferrari 458, you would probably take much better care of it than you would a 1992 Toyota Corolla. Not to say that that's a bad car, but one is valued more highly than the other one. Therefore, you would take better care of it. Take care of yourself as if you were a Ferrari 458. Now, how do you go about taking care of yourself? Self-care can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. However, I do want to give you one starting point, one definite starting point that no matter who you are, where you're from, or what you believe self-care to be, this will allow you to take that first step, to take that initiative toward taking good care of yourself. And that is establishing a quality skincare routine. And that brings me to Tiege Hanley, the sponsor of today's video. Tiege Hanley helps men start and maintain a skincare routine by simplifying the entire process. Honestly, it's the best skincare system for guys like you and me. I recommend that you start with their level 1 skincare system, which comes with all of the basics. A daily face wash to get rid of the dirt and grime on your skin. A 2 times per week exfoliating scrub to get rid of dead skin cells. An AM moisturizer with SPF 20 because you should always be protecting your skin from the sun. And a PM moisturizer to help your skin stay hydrated and healthy throughout the night. My favorite part about Tiege Hanley is that every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much of each product to use, and in what order to use each product. They really make the process of achieving and maintaining amazing skin easy. Their products have made my skin look and feel better than ever, but you don't just have to take my word for it, because they have over 7,000 5-star reviews on their website from satisfied customers from all around the globe. In addition to amazing skin, members of Tiege Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off the retail price, the ability to customize your own box, exclusive monthly deals, the ability to pause or cancel at any time, and free US shipping. And because Tiege Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers, which is you, an amazing deal. Just click the first link in the description or the pinned comment of this video and get 30% off your first box and a free gift. Okay, seriously, that is an amazing deal. Click the link down below and get started today. Now, that being said, in addition to implementing a skincare routine and really just integrating self-care into your life on a day-to-day basis, the next thing that you can do to build upon that foundational value of being yourself is to travel. Okay, I'm filming this video from an undisclosed location in the Netherlands. I am on the other side of the world from where I was 1 week ago today. And for all intents and purposes, I live here. I still need to get my visa cleared and everything like that, but for all intents and purposes, I live in the Netherlands. And I'm not saying that you need to move to a different country like I did. Okay, I primarily did that because I found somebody who was worth moving for. But get out of your comfort zone. You see, when you travel to other places, especially places that are very far away from where you're from, you get a chance to see different dynamics unfold in your day-to-day life, which are largely unfamiliar to you. For example, me being in the Netherlands, a country which has adopted the saying, "doe normaal," which literally translates to be normal. I've been able to see that, wow, flexing jewelry and flaunting flashy cars and designer clothes isn't really the way that you garner respect in this society, like it is in American society, and in particular in the society that I came from, in Dallas. Okay, if you're from Dallas, you know that the person who has the nicest car, the nicest clothes, the biggest house, the nicest jewelry, all of that stuff, those are the people who garner the most respect. But being in this society and literally not having seen any form of gaudy jewelry since I stepped off of the plane, That's let me know that these people value things differently. They don't see success in the same light. They don't see success as something that's to be flaunted, right? And the Netherlands, when we talk about work-life balance, is right up there near the top. Whereas in America, people are constantly toiling away to fit this one-size-fits-all standard of becoming successful so that other people attribute value to you. Had I not came to the Netherlands and had I not started dating a person from the Netherlands, I would not have known that there was another way of living. I literally never would have found out that there are places out there that do not value wealth and status the same way that Americans do. This belief right here, this idea that a man's life doesn't start until they're 30, that's an American ideal. That is definitely an American ideal. Maybe some other countries share the same sentiment. They probably got it from America, if we're being honest. But that's an American ideal for all intents and purposes. The places that I've been to in Europe, at least, maybe with the exception of Zurich, but Valencia, Spain, the places that I've been to in the Netherlands, including Amsterdam, these are places where you won't really get respect for having a bust down VVS Rolex or having a Cuban chain that's this thick that gives you neck problems because it weighs so much. You don't garner respect in that same way here. Here, you garner respect by fitting in. Do normal. That doesn't mean that you can't be yourself. It simply means that you don't make a concerted effort to stick out just for the sake of sticking out. You simply be yourself and you allow your authenticity to take you where you need to go in life without trying to artificially garner other people's validation in the hopes of other people seeing you as being a valuable person. Instead, you have permission to just live your life. If you want to work a 9 to 5, you can go and do that. You can do whatever you want. And you don't have to worry about trying to keep up with the Joneses and trying to get a nicer car than your neighbors. In the neighborhoods that I've explored thus far, I've seen a wide mix of different socioeconomic groups. And I find this to be very refreshing coming from America, where the rich are very, very rich and the poor are very, very poor. And they're usually not intertwined very well. So you don't have much mixing between the socioeconomic classes. And because of that, you have these ideas that, wow, I need to get from here to here. I need to get from the lower class to the upper class so that I can get the respect that I'm giving them. Doesn't really make sense. But that's because I've traveled and I've now exposed myself to different perspectives. You need to be willing to expose yourself to different perspectives by traveling. Okay, get out of the US. I'm not saying you have to move, but go see something else. I recommend you travel to Europe if you can. But if you want to travel to South America, to Asia, somewhere else, by all means do that. You will be surprised to see that not everybody values the same things in the same way. And we're talking about at the macro level. Whole entire societies value things entirely different than what you've been conditioned to believe. That being said, I do believe that perhaps the most important part of being yourself and of expressing your authentic self is finding and following your purpose to the fullest capacity that you possibly can. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, you need to figure out what your purpose is. A lot of people, because they think about how they can get successful so that other people can value them more highly, they don't really think about what they came to this earth to do. And you have a lot of people who might make a lot of money and find a lot of external success, but deep down on the inside, they feel like failures because they're not in alignment with who they came here to be. I myself was once, I won't say a victim of this, but I was definitely a proponent of this ideology. The idea that you need to find a way to make as much money as possible, and in doing so, you will find happiness along the way. This is simply not true. It's not true. And if you don't believe me, you can go and do it for yourself. And you go and achieve all the successes that you see in your mind. Not saying you shouldn't be successful, but you can go ahead and chase success and see for yourself how empty you will feel once you accomplish it. Because ultimately, the idea that you need to wait until you're 30 to begin living your life, that's simply a facade. Okay, that's a mirage. That's you projecting your happiness into the future. This is something that I saw a lot when I used to do consultations. A lot of people, they had these ideals and these goals and these dreams, but they didn't realize that their happiness was only to be found in the present moment. Your happiness is not waiting for you on your 30th birthday. I can assure you of that. Okay, I'm 23 myself, and I found a lot of happiness in this life. I've experienced a lot of ups and downs, twists and turns, bumps, potholes in the road, but I've realized that the journey is the destination. As cliche as it sounds, and as many times as I've said this before, I'm going to keep saying it. The journey is the destination. When you learn to find and follow your purpose, you will come to appreciate the journey because you love every single moment of it. Even when you don't like it, you love it. You see, with me, for example, I used to think that YouTube was my primary purpose, making these videos. It was a part of my purpose. Maybe it was my purpose for that time in my life. But what I've realized is that with YouTube, I always thought about the goal, never the process. It was always about a means to an end. The end would justify the means. But the end never justifies the means. Okay, my whole entire life has been completely shifted because I found my true purpose, which at this moment is writing. Okay, writing is my purpose. That's something that I derive joy from without having to make any money from it. I know that I will make money from it, and not only that, but I'll make much more money from it because I love doing it. But I don't need to make money to enjoy the process of putting my books together and just expressing myself and expressing my observations and experiences and my insights in the form of poetry and prose. To give you an example, let me go ahead and read you a poem that I recently wrote that relates to today's topic. A man's life begins the day he turns 30. A statement so sturdy it's turned to a stigma, like being a sigma or alpha or beta. To wait a whole third of the years you've been given, to start living life that you believe women can have 12 years early, is surely not an ideal strategy. Some will get mad at me for going against the grain. But how could I sit here and watch all this pain be passed around for the sake of silly sentiments? Do you really believe that the entrance to life is 3 whole decades down the hallway? If so, have you always thought this to be the case? Are you willing to waste your years as you wait for a fate that might be false? Because I prefer to waltz through the door at 23, even before the money trees have provided me with shade. I've laid a foundation for which men have prayed and never got an answer. I've built on my wins by removing the cancerous thought that a man's life begins when he's handed a prosperous spot.